Welcome back, players and collectors, to my channel. Today is a very fun day for me, at least, because it's time for League again at Our House Games, my local card shop, and it's a Pokemon Cup time. So we're gonna head to the game shop, we're gonna play in a tournament and see how we do. We're back, ladies and gentlemen, at Our House Games. Today is Cup Day, so we're gonna go in. We have a nice cup to do. I know there's gonna be a few players. I think we're supposed to have more than last time, so we're running it back with the Charizard deck. I just can't get away from it, so I've been trying to Lost Box a little bit, but not working for me as well as the Charizard is, so let's go see what we can do. As you guys know from the previous vlogs, I usually get to the card shop pretty early to do a little bit of pre-game film, and I did the same thing again this week. I got to the card shop and was setting up a little bit. I wanted to do a little bit early filming, and I even bought a Charizard tin for Paldean Fates to open and present to you guys, which I'm going to show a couple clips, I guess, of it here, but I also wanted the promo to throw into my Charizard deck that I'm going to be playing. But something crazy happened. We were opening up the 5-packs, I should say. It's not 6. The 5-packs from the tin, and my good buddy Cody, who's also the game manager for the Pokemon League at the card shop here, handed me every single pack he had from his premium collection box featuring the Fuecoco line, and said, here, open it for the channel, let all the viewers see the hits and all that. So I ended up getting to open the tin, the 5-packs from the tin, and the 8-packs from the premium collection box. So there's not going to be any of that in this video. I'm going to take all of that and throw it into its own separate video since there's quite a few packs. But you guys got to see a little bit snippet of some of what's coming. So make sure you watch that video when it comes out. But so other than that, there was no pre-recording, and I did a couple game testing matches beforehand with another player there named Thomas, and they were very interesting. Before I get talking too much on everything that happened, I do want to say that I have memberships now open for my channel. So if you want to support me and you want to help my content grow and my channel grow, then memberships are a very good way. I think I've got couple different tiers. They're all pretty cheap, but there's perks alongside each different tier. Every tier kind of gets a little bit more and more perks, and I'm also going to start doing member only videos and live streams very, very soon. So if you want to be in on that, make sure you check out the memberships. But let's get back to the main video. So round 1, we end up playing Thomas, ironically, after we just deck tested a couple games previous to the tournament, before the tournament even started. And the funny part about all that is he's running an anti-Charizard deck. And I say that because I know he built it deep down inside to be an anti-Charizard deck, even though it's a good deck on its own and it doesn't really need to play Charizards to win. It's very much a anti-Charizard deck. So what was really funny is we played like 3 games and he just kicked my butt in all 3 games. I stood no chance. And then we get round 1 pairings out and find out that I am playing Thomas in round 1, and he's smiling, he's all, grinning ear to ear. And I'm just like, oh God, here we go. Round 1 loss already coming, right? But we're playing the game anyway, right? Anything can happen, and I have full faith that, as a player, I can make something happen. So we sit down, game 1, and it starts off about as poorly as you could imagine. I start with nothing other than a Jirachi, nothing else. And he starts off with like a Bound Sweet, I think a Brute Bonnet and something else. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a quick game. I don't know how. I have no idea how. I wish I would have just recorded every match this whole tournament because they were all so good. But I wish I would have recorded this whole match because you guys would have loved to see the magic that I worked to pull this game as close as it was. When I say that I was off to one of the worst starts I've ever been off to, that is the most true statement. I was dead. I should not have even come close to winning this game. I don't think he drew the necessary pieces early enough on to really put me away quick, which ended up costing him quite a bit. But somehow he was leading the game like the entire time. He was always like one prize counter ahead of me. But I somehow kept hanging in there, and I got to a point where I got a Charizard and I got a Pidgeot down, a Pidgey, and I evolved Pidgey into Pidgeot, and I was able to get my engine going, and I got a Charizard in play by like turn 4 or 5. And that Charizard was pivotal, along with a boss's orders, to bring up his Brute Bonnet. Because if you don't know, Serena and Brute Bonnet is a deadly combo. Brute Bonnet with a ancient capsule, booster capsule on it, magnifies the amplifies the effects of poison, which Brute Bonnet does. It poisons both active Pokemon, and then Serena can hit you to where you only have 30 remaining HP. So you get hit by Serena, you have 30 HP left, and if you've already been poisoned, then you get 30 damage counters on checkup. So it's like an automatic KO. I was able to boss up his Brute Bonnet and knock it out pretty quick, so I got rid of that threat. And then he was very slow to get his Serena going. He just couldn't draw the pieces he needed. And there was a couple key Ionos I threw in there to really disrupt his gameplay. And that was huge. But it came down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. He had 3 prizes left. I had 2 prizes left. And I had a Charizard in the active and a Charmander on my bench, along with my Pidgeot. But my Charizard already had, I think, like 300 damage counters on it, so he just had to knock it out, and he was going down to 1. But in my hand, I had a Charizard, I had a Rare Candy, I had a Lost Vacuum to deal with the Panic Mask, and there's something else, like I may have had, I think I had boss's orders or a counter catcher or something like that. So basically, he knocked out my Charizard. I put a Charizard in play. I still have, I think I had 4 prize counters at that point. I didn't have 2. I knocked out his 1 Serena that did not have the Panic Mask. His other Serena on bench had the Panic Mask. So I knocked it out and I go down to 2. I'm thinking, you know what, though? I have a full health Charizard in play here. He's got no Brute Bonnet in play. Like, I don't see how he wins this next match. So he puts his Serena, his final Serena, in play, and he's just smiling at this point. I'm like, oh no, like something happened. When he knocked out my previous Charizard, he drew a Brute Bonnet from the prize. Wow, right? And he had Town Store in play, so he was able to put the Brute Bonnet in play, get the Ancient Booster Capsule, attach it to the Brute Bonnet, poison me, and then Trope Kick me for KO. I was literally 1 turn away from winning that game. When I started off as poorly as I did, I was 1 turn away. It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I'm not even gonna lie. But the game was played super well. I was very proud of myself to battle and really kind of make the comeback start to happen. It came down to the final play. He was sweating. I was sweating. I think the reality of what I had said pre-tournament about how funny it would be if we both got matched up in the finals and then I ended up beating him to win the tournament, he didn't find it very funny, but I found it funny. I think that reality, he saw that reality slowly starting to happen, and so he was getting kind of nervous, but he pulled it out in the end, and we go 0-1 to start the tournament. Not a great way to start, but it was still super fun. And then round 2 happened. It was a Charizard mirror match with Danny, who came up from a different store, but really good friend to some of the people in the shop there. So, and he was a fantastic person. We ended up playing a Charizard mirror match, but his Charizard deck was really cool. I'm not even gonna lie. I learned a ton about playing Charizard and just ton in strategy from playing Danny. Like, I don't think there's been anybody out there where I've learned as much in one game as when I played Danny. He was cool, calm, and collected the whole time. He had a strategy going the whole time. I started off super hot. I had some really good Pokemon. I think I had 2 Charmander and a Pidgey. I drew a Pidgeot in a rare candy, or an Arven at least, and got a rare candy pretty quickly. Like, I was getting set up super early in this game, and it seemed like no matter what I was doing, he was just so calm, cool, collected, and just like, it didn't bother him, didn't phase him. I knocked out his first Charmander. He promoted a something, I don't remember what it was, and he evolved a Charmander on the bench to Charmeleon. I'm like, I see where this is going. So I get a boss's orders, and I boss up the Charmeleon, and I knock out that Charmeleon. So now I'm like, okay, 2 of his Charmander are already in the discard pile. Like, he's only got 2 Charmander left to go for. And my first mistake on that was not putting Lost Zone in play before I took the knockout. That one kind of came back to bite me a little bit. But second of all, was getting a little too cocky. I won't say cocky. I wasn't really cocky, but I got comfortable right where I was at, because I was very comfortably in the lead at this point, and I already had a Charizard and a Pidgeot on bench, and he just didn't have much of anything going. But he ended up getting a Ralts and Kirlia into play with Refinement. He's using Colress Experiment to card search. And man, it was just such a good mechanic. I'm not even going to lie. It came down to the final couple plays. I made a huge error. I thought that I had enough energy. I had a Mew in the active, and I had a Charizard on my bench. It was my second Charizard. He had knocked out my first. Well, I had 2 energy attached to the Charizard, none on the Mew. But I was sitting there trying to calculate damage, and I thought, for some reason, I don't even know why I thought this, I had 2 prizes left. I think he had 2 prizes left. No, he had 1 prize left. And I just kept thinking, I'm going to hit him for KO. Like, I'm doing 300 and something damage. I'm doing 330 damage, and then I need to attach the Vitality Band or whatever. I just needed to get 1 more knockout. So I quick search on my next turn, grab an energy, and before I even put it down, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to attach energy to my Mew. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to pull my Charizard back out onto the active, and then I'm going to KO you for knockout. He's like, you're like 10 damage short. And I don't remember specifically how or why, but when I redid the math, I'm like, no, I am 10 damage short. So I'm like, oh man. So he's like, hey, don't worry about it. You know, whatever, just, you didn't play anything yet. So, and he was technically correct. I hadn't actually played anything. I just talked it out loud. But I felt kind of dirty at that point, you know, saying like I was going to do this, but I hadn't technically played it. So I just attached the energy that I had on in my hand, because I already quick searched for it, and I was already attaching it to the Mew. I just hadn't done anything yet, and I passed. And in his turn, and I kept thinking the whole time, like, I just ruined my own chance for the game. He's just going to boss up my other Charizard. He already had Justified Gloves attached to his Charizard. I'm like, this is it. He just bosses up my Charizard and he wins. Or my Pidgeot. I didn't even have to Justify Gloves my Charizard. He could have bossed up my Pidgeot and taken the dub. And I'm like, it's game over. And he's playing some cards. He's searching. Didn't do anything. Ended up just passing. I'm like, what? That's crazy. So I draw, and I'm sitting there like, am I missing something? Like, I'm seriously about to make another mistake, because there's no way I'm about to get this win. So I quick search, pull up a boss's order, and I had forgotten for like the past 3 turns I even had a boss's order in my deck. I thought I used them all, but I had only used 2, and I have 3 in my deck. So I had found that on my previous boss's order when I got the energy, and it was already too late. I'd already pulled up the energy. I got it. I bossed up. I said literally anything other than Charizard, and he stuck his hand out, shook my hand, said GG's, and that was game. I took the dub. And so I'm like, after the game, I'm like, why didn't you just boss up my Pidgeot or my Charizard? Like, you had your own Pidgeot out in play. You could have easily won that game. And he was just like, I didn't have any bosses left. So I'm like, what? And I'm looking through his discard, because I had searched it the turn prior, and I'd seen 2 bosses order in his discard pile, but not a third. And every Charizard player plays 3 bosses. It's a vital card. He goes, it was in my Lost Zone. And in that moment, I had completely forgotten from all of his Colress experiment he was playing that he even had a lost zone. Like, I was so zoned onto what he was doing and what I was doing that I forgot he even had a lost zone. And there was his third boss's orders in the lost zone. So I like stressed. I overplayed and overcalculated, and I made some mental errors in that game, and it should have cost me, and it didn't. He was a fantastic opponent, fantastic person. Huge shout out to you, Danny. You really rock. I seriously, if you're watching this, I learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to play you again, by the way. I'm going to be changing up my Charizard deck based off of how that deck played. It was too good not to. But anyway, we get the dub. We're 1-1, and we're going into round 3. And it's another Charizard mirror match again. And this kid is fantastic. He also has a YouTube channel. I can't remember off the top of my head what the YouTube channel name is, so I'm going to put it down on the screen. I'm also going to link it down below. But go check him out. His name is Talon, and he's a fantastic Charizard player. He's a great player all around, but he's a fantastic Charizard player. We get going, and I'm telling you what, this kid just got firing on all cylinders right away, and I had almost nothing to my name. So I'm starting off with a single Charmander. He started off with like 2 Charmander, a Rotom, and a Pidgey. And by turn 2, this kid somehow got, I think it was a Pidgeot and 2 Charizard on his bench. Or maybe it was a Pidgeot, a Charizard, and a Charmeleon. And then by turn 3, he evolved that Charmeleon into Charizard. So by turn 3, this kid had like a fully loaded bench, and I had a single Charizard, and I think I had Pidgey and another Charmander on my bench at that point. But it just was not looking great for me. Somehow he starts knocking out some of my Pokemon. I'm like barely in this fight at this point. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this. Somehow I fought my way all the way back to 4 prize cards. I think he had 2 at that point. I used my Charizard to take a knockout on one of his Charizards. So I'm now down to 2 prize cards as well. Yeah, he threw out another Charizard. Somehow came down to the wire where he needed to knock me out in that turn, or else I was going to win, because in my hand I had a boss's order and the Vitality Band, and I was going to be hitting for 270 damage. And he had a Pidgeot on bench, and I had the Vitality Band to do 280, which is exactly needed for the Pidgeot. And all I could think of, if he doesn't kill me now, I complete the comeback and I take the dub here. And I'm like, I am so close, especially after game 1, where I fought all the way back just to fall 1 turn shy. I'm like, please don't let this happen to me again. Please, dear Arceus, please don't let this happen again. And he's doing draw mechanics, man. He's doing everything he can. Boom, pulls out an Arven, and I'm like, oh my god, I know what's coming next. Justified Gloves, attaches it to his Charizard, KOs my Charizard for a game. And I'm like, I fell shy, 1 turn shy of taking another game from somebody. Mind you, that would not have been me winning. That would have been me stealing a game for the second time, potentially second time. But it didn't happen. It ended up going 1-2 in the tournament. But my god, let me tell you, those games were fan-freaking-tastic. Some of the best games I've ever played. Just like me personally, I felt like I grew as a player on that, because it felt like I finally was making the plays necessary to come back into games and to really put myself in a position to win when I was backed up into a corner. And that to me was super exciting. I know, I went 1-2. I didn't win. But I didn't even make like top 4 in this 8-person tournament. I think I finished 6th or 7th. I'm not sure where. It was somewhere near the bottom, which doesn't even matter to me at this point, because I did really good in the tournament, and that is all I needed to know. That was so close. I mean, that could have very easily. I was 1 turn away in 2 games from going 3-0, right? Like, that's how close that was. And I played some extremely good players in this tournament, so I felt really good about that. I got a long way to go, but at least we're making progress. So at the end of the video, we went 1 and 2, not the results we were looking for, but I learned a lot today. And seriously, this Pokemon Cup was by far one of the best I've ever played in. So I am excited for it. I've potentially got another tournament I'm going to be going to here very shortly. As long as the cards line up for me, I might be able to go to another one and not be working. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, by the way, what kind of deck you're running in the PTCG. There's a lot of different metas out there right now, but I'm very curious to see what you guys are playing. But make sure you comment below. And that's all we got time for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.